County Supervisor Chris Norby has taken a public stand against the City of Fullerton's plan to expand the redevelopment area. What is your opinion on this expansion and why?
Thank you. I've had an opportunity to meet with Supervisor Norby about this issue and also with Director Zerschmied regarding the city's plans for the expansion of the redevelopment project area. And as I mentioned previously, I have extensive experience myself working in implementing redevelopment area plans. Chief for me in understanding redevelopment is that you're supposed to be curing blight. You're supposed to be really getting rid of something that's really horrible that the private market won't get rid of on its own. When I worked in Brea and doing the downtown project there, I worked to relocate a rubber factory. Some of you may remember the ESCO rubber fire. I think it was 1995, one of the worst fires in Brea's history. The ESCO rubber factory, before we were able to construct their new facility just up the block, caught fire and burned down because it was a very deteriorated, outdated facility. And it caused significant risk for life and property to the senior citizen apartment immediately behind it and a child daycare center. So that's two uses that don't belong together, a rubber factory and senior living and daycare. That's blight. When I look at the redevelopment project area that City of Fullerton is trying to expand today, I don't find that. I find some buildings that might be a little bit down on their luck, but not to the extent that the private market can't turn those things around and create investment opportunities for developers who are looking for property to invest in that maybe is a little less expensive so that they can reinvest in it and take that over. So the key thing for me is, will the private market turn the situation around? That's one of the definitions that the state requires of you to find before you establish a redevelopment project area. So I don't think we're there yet. Now, do we need reinvestment in some of these areas? Absolutely. Can the private market do it? I think it probably can. And before we go down the path of doing a major expansion of the city's redevelopment powers, which in turn will lead to a major expansion in the need to sell debt, because that's how you fund redevelopment, I think we should really look very closely at whether or not there's actual blight.
Thank you. Ms. Hahn. County Supervisor Chris Norby has taken a public stand against the City of Fullerton's plan to expand the redevelopment area. What is your opinion on this expansion and why?
My opinion is it's great because that the economics and property values, all those things will help. Like economic development is enhance the buyer's city's positive image. Investment in our business and residents or neighborhood will maintain positive revenue flow to support police and fire and city services. So redevelopment and the project will be a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Nelson.
I would say I basically agree with the supervisor's stance. I mean, I think the practical reality is, more often than not, what redevelopment ends up doing, we have the areas we have, but as we create new areas, what you do is you put the government in competition with private business, and the government can't even acquire parcels for fair market value because the owners all know that the government, to the extent that the redevelopment agency wants to put parcels in play, it artificially inflates the price, and then property owners that are adjacent that might have an interest in buying the properties with private investment either can't or won't do that because they can't compete with the city. And the last thing the city ought to be doing is become a competitor for private interests that are interested. And unfortunately, all too often, that's what I end up seeing happen. We go after properties, or we encourage developers to go after properties. The developers just come back to the city basically to underwrite the excess or the above market price that's going to be paid. And I think it's a mistake, and it does not cure any problems. It probably makes more.
Thank you, Councilman. Mayor Quirk.
Redevelopment, I think, first of all, it's a very complex issue, and I think there's a lot of legalistic issues that even the public is not aware. I know our council members, of course, need much more studying, but in our current situation, asking for an expansion, I think it needs to be done very seriously, conservatively, and of course with any issue, if there are abuse, then you would see some of the issues that were just stated that could happen. But I think the City Council of Fullerton has shown that they are very conservative, first of all using eminent domain, things like this. So am I supportive? We have seen many benefits of redevelopment, and sometimes we get two sides of the issue where we're opposed to using it for some reasons, and yet we like the dollars for it, which have included us doing things like supporting the Fox Fullerton, things like our library expansion. Those have been some of the projects that our redevelopment dollars could be used for. Many people in the public would be surprised where those dollars are being used for and actually support them. But before we can move forward, we certainly have to have the public input. There's many steps before we can move forward, and that's exactly where we are. We're responding to the area where the council has stated that could be an expansion area. We want to hear from the business area, the business owners. We want to hear from the homeowners, and I can tell you whatever we do as far as the expansion, it will be done seriously and thoughtfully.
Thank you very much. Councilman Jones.
The redevelopment area that we have now have enabled us to have the wealth that this city has. We've been able to take the redevelopment money and we put it into many of our downtown businesses. We've given them low interest loans. In fact, the Villa Lil sold so many of the restaurants down there. The Chapman building that everyone realizes is a historical icon has been seismically corrected. So has the Springfield. So we've used this money instead of general fund money to build a new police station, upgrade our parks, and so on. So the expansion, if it should go in place, and I'm not saying it would, but if it is, it would be a redevelopment area for 45 years. And it would bring into the city of Fullerton up to $300 million for us to use for our city. Now, $20 of every $100 has to go for affordable housing. Surely we have to take care of those whether we like it or not. Normal taxation is only $15.60 for property taxes. $15.60 is all the city gets, and that doesn't pay for a lot. Whereas if it's $100 of taxation in the redevelopment area, all $100 stays in our city. I'd rather have the money in my pocket. $20 we have to give for affordable housing, no problem. That's necessary and needed. But it gives us $80 to do so many other things. So this is why I very support it. This is why our city is so strong fiscally. And if we are able to, and by the way, yes, there's some very attractive areas in the area we're looking at, but we're also looking at a lot of gangland too. So blight is somewhat in the eye of the beholder. I can guarantee you if Bill Gates came out and looked at my house, he'd say, no thank you very much, I don't believe I want it, it's blighted. So a lot of homes that look wonderful could stand some help, and that is what we can do.
Thank you very much.
Money.
All right.